All right. All right. So, topic of the day, guys. Holy, what a ban list or limit list or whatever the hell you want to call this thing. What? Happy New Year.
It's
Whoa.
definitely a lot more than I anticipated.
It is a thing.
I for one, Zeus and Demeter to 1 only until Moonrise. What are our thoughts on that?
They took Volt away from him. I'm mad at it.
The resident Viper villain arc is postponed, and now he has to shift to a villainous villain arc.
I believe this is a desire from A Drive and him listening to the community, because everyone that has been discussing this has been like, we're tired of the same thing. We're tired of the same thing. And while I'm unsure if this is good or bad, this is definitely a cause from that and his own desire to see changes within the meta. Now, just to get rid of something that is so critical as a divine is a bit shocking, and I was not expecting it. However, it is only a partial pause until Moonrise, so it's not as if it's going to be gone forever. I can only assume that this is in hope to prevent such a offset of Thunder, Earth in future tournaments. It's also prevalent that he's hit a lot of things such as Elechic to prevent searches, Equalinks to deal with the Nexus issues, and a few others like Arcolith. Now, that being said, I was not expecting this at all. Guys, it is astonishing to me because it brings me some concerns, because he was never a part of the meta, and all it does is shift focus and intention onto this card, which just says, hey, we're concerned this has issues in Moonrise.
Yeah,
so, and this go.
Yeah, so the Arcolith thing is strange to me, just because I don't think Arcolith has ever been overwhelmingly strong enough to warrant a ban like this, and or limit, and like, in all honesty too, Arcolith can't, it has counterplay, whereas Lavalith hit the board and ate at least 2 back row most of the time it hit, and ultimately, most of the time, just decimated anybody's board state, especially if you're playing Divine. So it is like not even comparatively close. So that one's strange to me. The limiting of Elechic and Equalinks, I 100% get, especially Equalinks. Equalinks is just, if Equalinks sticks to the board, you automatically win, dude. I mean,
what more can you
say? I don't know, man. For me, Equalinks is like just, it's quite overtuned and has been overtuned. I don't understand why the focus has suddenly come up on it all of a sudden. Maybe it's because it's finally been splashed in other decks outside of the typical Earth Beater, Earth Nexus strat, and maybe that's why it gained a little more, attention. But I get it. I 100% get it. Elechic is going to prevent, it's going to make people, if they want that divine strategy to go through, they're either A, going to just play the one-off of Elechic and then fill the role rest with Plucky. And people are going to either shift to Plucky or they're just going to fall off of it entirely.
Okay, so I know exactly why Equalinks has increased prevalence, or at least my own opinion about it. And that is the cause of the limits. Now, getting rid of our invoke removal, while that was beneficial for a portion of the time, has caused the shift in importance, because now counter runes are the main way we get rid or handle cards. Equalings being a way to delete them and handle anything that comes out is why it's so prevalent. Sure, we have Cryoblast, but you have to sacrifice 2 of them to out the Equalings. And that's if he doesn't have a stadium and a bunch of combos. Now, that's not how they play it in competitive, but it is something to be noted.
True.
I personally never saw it as a problem because whenever it saw the field, I generally don't have a lot of back row set up at that point anyway, and then I just deal with it. It usually is a one and done. It gets to do its thing once, and then I kill it. It's done. So I never really actually saw the problem with it. Some people, it's like don't know how to deal with it, whatever. But I guess the decks that I play are more aggressively focused, so they just deal with it.
Well,
like,
I can also
okay, you
attest
pop my back row.
to your
care.
deck building style, Jameson, because when I was heavy on the Fun Glow Thunderstorm stuff, like my deck didn't work against you because you never had back row. You just had big guys that went fast and hit hard, and I just couldn't. I didn't have the strategy to deal with it. So
I was gonna say Jameson's style and Fire's style in general is Kinleo card effect damage. And that is something that is unaffected by something like Equalings.
True.
Yeah. So that's why I say I just never saw it as problematic overall, I guess, because of that very reason. The way that I play and my play style, my deck building style is just go ahead. Oh yeah, you blew up my my back row. Okay. By the way, here's a Trifernal. Enjoy.
Fair enough.
Viper,
you've been kind of quiet there, buddy. What are your thoughts generally overall?
Okay, overall, we're gonna get to Arcolith here in a few minutes, and there's gonna be a rant on that. But
yeah, there will.
I think the specific problem with Equalings is that it generates advantage, and then it keeps generating advantage, and it has a stat line that sure you can get rid of it fairly easily, assuming there's no back row support, which there always is. But the fact that they pop a back row, and then if you have no more back row, they swing for 2 or 3. And then next turn, if you didn't out it, they pop a back row and swing for 2 or 3. And then they pop a back row and swing for 2 or 3. And if you have 2, then it accelerates even more, and that makes Equalings a problem, especially with the growing prevalence of Argo. Shout out Bean Soldier, which can pull out the Scythe of Demeter to win the battle to protect Elechick even more, to then generate more advantage, and it just ramps even more. Elechick, I agree, the Searching of Divines takes a big hit, as much as I don't want it to. Hashtag Free Volt Tempest.
Free Volt Tempest.
I don't think Volt Tempest has been changed. What are you talking about?
Last time I was hashtag Blue Bears, this time I'm hashtag Free Volt Tempest, and more specifically Free Zeus. Yeah. Okay, and I think hitting more invoke removal is not the call I would have made.
No.
Because having invoke removal stops the game from turning into whose snowball is bigger.
Yeah.
Because eventually you'll just get a snowball and ram it into your opponent's snowball, and the bigger snowball just wins.
You know what happens when most, if not all, of the invoke removal is removed? We get a limit of a card that I am personally a fan of, Pharaohgeist, who also hits this limit list preemptively before Moonrise even gets a chance to show its stuff, man. That's what happens. You get rid of invoke removal. Oh, well, now cards like Pharaohgeist are a problem. Go figure.
Dude, this is something that absolutely shocks me. Because, yes, I understand it's an issue, especially with us losing all this invoke removal. However, you don't give it a chance to sign or have other opportunities to have people discover. I am fully, shocked that this occurred because the game needs to develop naturally. If you want to strike something like Jotaya, oh, shoot, we found an issue with Jotaya that allows you to FTK. Okay, got it. Fixed it, no problem. However, Pharaohgeist, it's like if it has the issues that it may have, which is why it's on this list, then let us discover it in Moonrise and limit it. Because then the meta has developed in a new way that is beneficial for the game, because people have already stated we don't want Thunder, we don't want Earth, we don't want this continue base set meta. And hitting something like this is openly stating that things might continue down the exact same path.
Well, here's another problem. The game is still young, dude. We're 3 sets in. We're gonna get set 4 next month, and then gonna be able to play it in a couple of months. So we're less than 300 cards into the card pool currently. It's still such a young game that really hasn't had a chance to get its feet up underneath it, which is why this so-called meta problem is a thing, is because we have just such a limited card pool. Let the card pool progress the way it's supposed to naturally, and then people can come up with more stuff. It opens up more options for what you want in your deck and how to do things with your deck. I mean, I look at the Moonrise card list and I'm like, dude, this is actually kind of shaking. Like, Hurricane effectively changes the way we play Elestrals altogether, because currently and since base set, it's been I play back row, I have everything I need to counter what you're gonna try to do, and continue to keep pace and keep ahead of you because I have everything I need. If we introduce cards that take advantage of that play style, like Gloombat, for example, which isn't legal as well right now, and then we introduce something like Hurricane, which is a complete like back row destruction. If you play face downs, the pace of the game is gonna change. And
Bloombat, I saw absolutely, and I was like, that card is so good at assisting the development. Now I'm seeing the what is it, the Phasmacore and whatever the other quick ascend 2 cost was. I don't remember its name at the time, but those are allowing it to have that quick bop and survivability to get to Fairygeist. So at least how I see it in my brain. So that's how I would have attempted to do it. I don't know if it'd been any good, but I don't know. There's so many fun things I would love to do, but now knowing that Fairygeist is off, so I can't try that now, which means that for Moonrise, I'm going to look at Starbit. Now, if we're stopping Arcolith because it fills and bops, Starbit is literally a fills and then bops.
Yeah, and Starbit is like, I look at the Moonrise set list, man, and like, I mean, I'm repping the water shirt right now, the Watercaster shirt. I mean, I love water, and Starbit to me just seems like such a fun time, man. And it literally, like you said, Babs, effectively does the same thing that Arcolith does. So that gives me concern that something like that introduces like a whole like new aspect and element to what has already been established in water, to give you something else to do with it. And it kind of goes into the playstyle of water already with like the water nexus stuff. You feed it spirits, it gets a lot of spirits. You nexus, you move spirits around the board. You put a lot of spirits on big guy go boom, big guy bop, that kind of thing.
I know they didn't do much with Arcolith, even though they could, but I'm looking at Bow of Apollo and I'm like, okay, I hit my opponent, they're down to like 6 spirits. I throw a Apollo bow onto my Starbit, I hit directly for game. Like, there is a lot that can be done with it that's very especially with Arcolith, except have better nexus in water than we did in the Thunder.
Yeah, agreed. And also with cards like Argo, Rising, and Relevance here lately, that Bow is a completely valid strategy. And Bow can probably be used as like a combat trick,
Yeah, you could just use it on your attack to bypass your opponent's shenanigans, right? So I was looking at the numbers because you were talking about numbers earlier. Hard fast numbers as of Daybreak. Number of distinct cards. This is not anything that is a stellar or alt art or anything like that. But individual distinct cards, named cards, right, including titles. It is 293 cards. When you add in Moonrise and the anticipated numbers for that, that count goes up to 374. And what that means for the game is, like you said earlier, there, Graveshift, is that we're getting more options, we're getting more choices, we're getting more directions to go in. I think that there's a lot of casters in the community that are adjusting with the times and playing the new cards and discovering the new combos and the new strategies and the new fun things. But a lot of other casters are stuck with, this works, I'm not going to change. I'll splash in a few of the new cards, but I'm going to pretty much stick with what works, which is Thunder and Earth.
Fair enough. And it's completely valid. You can't take that away because it's true.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
Earth and Thunder are just strong fundamentally because they were designed so in base set. And again, that's one of the things where like it's a brand new game that fundamentally plays so much different than any other card game I've ever experienced. Like it has similarities to other card games, but it is its own game and its own entity altogether. So when you're designing something the way that A Drive has done with like this ultimate idea, and you're trying to bring it to life, and you're trying to like say, okay, like here's going to be our base set. I need to make sure that this base set has a bunch of really good cards that can stand in the foundation of what I'm trying to build off of. And I feel like he's done that. But in the process of doing so, I feel like a lot of things got overlooked, overshadowed, and that's just a learning curve that comes from developing a game. I'm sure you can relate to that, Jameson, being a game designer yourself. There's growing pains with it, and I feel like, especially like looking at the fundamental upgrades that we've been getting from set to set, as far as looking at the cards and looking at their effects and looking at the way the game is played, I feel like he's definitely learned from the mistakes of base set and like early designs, like even in Frostfall. And he's like, okay, I learned from that, and I've seen how that works. So now these new cards that I'm developing, I'm going to make sure that I keep that in mind when designing these new cards and, coming up with these new things. So to me, this limit list, it makes sense in the context of, okay, we don't have a lot going on in the game right now. But also, I feel like that also has to deal with the fact that we were in base set for how long, guys, before we got any new cards? Right. And I feel like a lot of that, it's nobody's fault at all. I just feel like a lot of people that have been around for a while are just under that base set mentality to where like they can't open up to the new realm of possibility to where like this game is going and can go. Because we were in base set for so long that like our minds are just, programmed to know, okay, this is how Elestrals is played. This is what we do. And like, even though all these new things are coming in with each incorporate set, it's like, we're all still kind of there, and myself included, just like, it's hard to rethink the way you've been playing a game for so long,
Right. No, I get that. My thinking is very straightforward on this whole limit list. Is it's not necessary at this time. Well, I do not play competitively. I'll add that caveat. I personally do not see a problem with any of these cards that they're adding onto this list at this time. But that's not to say that it's not that exactly that. I mean, I think everybody's points are valid so far. It's like, yes, Equilix is becoming a problem. Yes, a Fairgeist is potentially a problem. Arcolith, I just don't see why that's even being considered.
Yeah.
And several other, just looking at the list, man.
Viscerus has a semi-limit to 2, though. That one's that's a head scratcher, man. Like
that's a weird one. Yeah.
Now Viscerus can't run rampant the way that it has, but at the same time, it's like normally.
It hasn't been running rampant, though. That's the problem. As soon as the Viscerus hits the board, it gets Gorgonsed, or it gets PTA'd, or when it swings, it gets shielded. I have not seen it become a problem. I've watched a number premier events and not seen Viscerus
It
do well.
can be, because it can be a snowball effect. If the Viscerus is able to proc itself at least once, you've effectively gained board state, gained advantage, gained tempo, and then especially if the second one can get off and you get all three on the board, that's 9 times out of 10, especially with my experience. If I get all 3 Viscerus out, I just win the game naturally, just because it's that strong of a card.
That's the beauty of this game, though. You gotta learn. Competitive players understand how this game works. I see a Visk, I have to do this or this.
Exactly.
If I see Equally, I have to hit to prevent it. The meta needs actually, and people have seen it. When I look at this limit list, I see an eagerness to see change within the meta that, whether good or bad, feels a little bit forceful.
Yeah.
Because we're still very young in this game.
Yeah.
And I love this game to the depths of my heart. But if we are too... I think of it as a mother being a bit overprotective of its child.
Yeah.
Like, wants it to succeed. However, if we coddle it too much and not let it naturally develop and occur, then it's gonna just be more harm down the road than we need or want for it.
Right.
Right.
With this limit list, to me, it kind of seems like they're trying to run before they walk, in a sense. Kind of like how you put with like the coddling mother type thing, and it's a bit concerning, but not overly concerning, especially because they can probably take the feedback from this, because I feel like this is, like you said, a bit forced, and they're trying to run before they're able to walk with this game. Like I said, we're still a young game. Elestrals is still very young, and we don't even get to 400 cards with set 4. We get close to it, like you said, Jameson, like 370 something cards after Moonrise releases, and to me, that's still not a very large number of cards for a card pool to choose from, especially with the already limited deck size of 40 too, you know. So like, the more cards that get added to the pool, I feel like the more diverse the metagame will become.
I figure that when we hit a year or so out, we're gonna have a good sized card pool, 500 to 600 cards.
Yeah.
So.
I
also don't think it's the number of cards; it's the utility of the cards in the card pool, right? Because like, you look at something like Ash Rabbit, right? And nothing has Ash Rabbit's utility. Nothing else looks 3, grabs 1, and is that consistency tool. Nothing else is Elechick, ignore Plucky, that has an attack stat that can actually do something.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else grabs stadiums while naturally being a 4-body like Jolton. Nothing removes back row while having a stat line like Equalings.
Now,
so
I absolutely agree with you, Viper. And for my straight opinion, blatant honesty, I don't think base set was broken. The issue we have with base set is everything was such a good consistency. It's not that they were overpowered or strong, it was that they are such good consistency tools. Everything that's coming out does not have the consistency or viability that these current base set cards have, and that is what the concern was.
Right.
But at the same time, that's what made base set, especially as a young game, so much fun to play, was because everything was so smooth with how it was able to be played.
Yeah, and let's not forget, like, sure, the meta is technically Thunder and Earth right now, right? But the meta really is back row.
Yeah.
Back row is, and base set has wholeheartedly been the meta.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason Earth and Thunder are so strong is because they find ways to either remove your back row or find their back row faster.
Yeah.
And no other deck does that. Like, sure, you can A for us, but then you get Gorgons, you lose the Spirits, and then you don't get your back row and get nothing.
Yep.
Plus that requires 2 cards at least.
Yeah, and Ash Rabbit is cheaper than Aphoros combo.
Yep.
It's cheaper, and you get to pick the back row you want.
Mm-hmm.
Or the card you want if you don't find back row somehow.
Now, we've talked about it before, but I think the most glaring thing I'm looking at is Farrageist, because it just screams the opposite of everything else.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at all the Thunder and Earth things that have been nullified. It's okay, I need to shake up this meta and have some new interesting decks come into play. However, Farrageist says the exact opposite. I don't want change. Let's keep the status quo because you're not letting Farrageist develop and grow for itself. Now, if Farrageist was outright banned, I feel like that would make more sense because they either found an issue or, oh no, Farrageist has this and then it'll just destroy the game because we found this, so it's banned, like Jotaya. They found it, they stopped it. However, this being limited tells me that they didn't find anything that outright wins games every time with Farrageist. So why not let us figure out how to play with it, and if it truly becomes a concern, unlimit our invoke runes? Because something that we did not see change was removal to the limit list.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that is something that is to be noted.
Farrageist as a card feels a lot like my boy Voltempest, right?
It does.
And since you're taking away removal, those big guy strategies that just kind of sit there and laugh at you throughout the entire game get stronger because you can't remove them. There is no removal.
You know what I just thought of too, guys? That this kind of like you brought up Voltempest Viper, but since they're limiting Zeus until
February.
Until February, you know what card is actually legal to play right now? Posthumous.
Him too.
Posthumous. And guess what's not limited? Artemis. And you can search Artemis with Fawnlet, which is also legal.
Yeah, but the issue with that is Artemis is not nearly as good in viability as the strats with Zeus.
I get that, but at the same time, Artemis can turn off Zeus and Demeter.
The thing with the towers decks, Moose, Volt, Pharaoh, Chrono, is you don't care at that point once you've established it what the divine does. You just care that it's sitting there.
True.
That is true.
Nothing else really matters to you. The amount of times I played one Spirit Zeus just to protect Voltempest and laugh at my opponent for 6 turns while I slowly won the game is off the charts.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Zeus
style is going to get a lot more prevalency, and as Voltempest goes down, I think Farrageist was on the same wavelength as those two, as it has a strength to just sit there and laugh at you. And then there is the Phosphazel, which was seen in the tournament. It didn't make it all the way, but it was seen in the tournament, and that thing was pretty cool to see, and I didn't fully understand what
Phosphazel can actually do some crazy stuff if you think about it, man. You can buff its stats. You can destroy non-targeted destruction, by the way. Right? Is it non-targeted?
I believe in non-targets. It's a solar card. Those don't target normally.
Solar doesn't target.
Yeah, solar just doesn't target. That's just
ignore the cows.
Ignore the cows. Yeah, no, that's actually so true. But yeah, Phosphazel is another card that might just take off and again, if the goal of this whole limit list is to just shake up the way the game has been played for the past year, I get that. And then, when Moonrise comes out, maybe reconsider some of these things and take them off if they need to be taken off. That kind of thing. It kind of makes sense. You want this last, little hurrah within, the competitive scene and the metagame to be kind of shaken up a bit. And you want other things to kind of shine a little bit more than what it's actually been able to. So...
I was hoping was going to be removed because while it is a targeted removal and removal is very strong, as long as you know that your opponent has laurels, then okay, always make sure I have a second guy on the counter. It was very easily outable or able to use the deck in order to change it. And I think that might have been one of the, I don't know, because we're just discussing Gloombat, and I just had a thought. If you're able to get Farrageist out, then Gloombat, you're already protecting the Farrageist from that strategy, from the one-off. But then again, Earthquake is just such a powerful removal that I understand why they wouldn't want that, but I don't know. It's just I'm worried that if nothing got removed from the limit list, this means that they may be more stubborn to the list than I anticipated, which means we might just see these things last longer than we would hope.
Right.
And that's a concern for me personally, but they've already openly admitted that they're going to be changing and removing two of them, our divines, once Moonrise hits. So, I mean, at least we know that some things are going to return.
Yeah, and another thing with this too is Dan is very like transparent with stuff, and the breakdown he gave just kind of like did explain very well his intent, and I really appreciate that from him. And I can kind of see it's just for Elestrals, it's still so new, like we've already said, and he's trying to shake things up, and with a rotational list similar to like Pokemon, but not like as bad to where like they completely remove stuff altogether and you have to redesign decks and stuff. This doesn't really impact that too much, you know. It does, but it doesn't at the same time. And the fact that it's like, okay, so like some stuff can go on, but also stuff can come off. And it seems like he's kind of try and do it on a regular basis just to kind of keep things fresh and new. So that might also be a thing that we kind of overlook a little bit here when talking about this, is like maybe this is a new kind of strategy that might just ultimately work out within the TCG realm, especially within Elestrals. So I don't know. I think I think it's concerning, but at the same time, I feel like it's still kind of like, let's dip our toe in the water and see what we can do as far as shakeups go.
I want to look a bit more in depth in what wasn't. So there was nothing that was taken off the limit list, but the things that weren't added, like if we think Ashtrabbit, now that it's become basically our mascot and it was not limited here, that proves that it probably for the foreseeable future and or never will be banned or limited.
That is also true.
On the same level as it, Gorgons is the great equalizer of all decks.
Yeah.
Considering that it is the most powerful rune that we possess, I believe
it's the universal no button. Anything you want to do, Gorgons just says no.
It's stronger than any of the runes that are currently on this limit list, and the statement that it is not been added shows me that they want to keep this great equalizer as a way to prevent certain things from running rampant. And if we're worried about the Ascension snowball strategies, then you know that certain people are running them, especially in best of 3. Gorgons or other things can be made to stop these runs.
Yeah, because Gorgon says you cannot ascend to this Celestial, so...
And if they're like Nomadile, Chronodile, you can have a side deck of Pandoras, which as we're seeing all of these searchers become more prevalent, it's going to be more useful. But however, because these two searchers, Elachik and...
Viscerus.
Well, I was going to say Visk, but I was also going to say... But no, these searchers are gone. And so Rabbit is just going to continue being an absolute monster, which means Pandora's is not going to see the relevancy that I was foreseeing it to be. So we just have to wait and see what happens, because at this point, he's made his peace, and we understand why he's done it to a certain extent. It's still a bit shocking, but I understand it.
I am of the opinion that no matter your feelings on specifically Rabbit and Gorgons, I think they're necessary for the game to be healthy.
I agree. I was just explaining why they weren't added.
Yeah, I get you. Because like Rabbit, if you don't have Rabbit, all of these decks lose consistency pieces that don't exist. And sure, you have to splash Thunder for it. But that's no different than splashing water for Tsunami.
True.
I absolutely
Except for the fact that Rabbit has a 5 body, but that's
That is
irrelevant.
true.
don't want anyone to misinterpret what I'm stating. I'm not saying, oh no, these two weren't limited. Boo hoo. I'm not stating that. I'm stating the reasons they weren't is the universal no button, and as the mascot and beneficial gatherer of cards, it's not the worst card to have as a mascot, especially as a slower defensive
True. And you also got to think of the introduction of Eddie and the importance that Eddie has brought to the meta scene. Eddie is a hard counter to pretty much any Elestral, unless it's like a big Ascension body, you know, because Eddie just changes it to the least efficient stat, and it's immune to Tsunami. So
Eddie was fantastic, and it's an absolutely great card, which is just an absolute benefit. Like,
which is again why I don't think Rabbit was hit, is because there's things we have now like Mudlet too. Mudlet's another one. Mudlet and Eddie both counter Rabbit, so it's one of those things where like Rabbit does have play arounds, and like we've always had Alter, and Alter plays around Rabbit as well. You have to use it a bit more offensively, like proactive than reactive, but at the same time it still gets around it because that 2 stat is not relevant. The only stat that matters is the booty.
And while those position changes, like Sorlet was a position change, Eddie's a position change, Mother's a position change, those are all very beneficial, but you also got to remember there are also ways around it. Like up and coming, there's the Havacub, which cannot have its position changed.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. That's a card that actually can't be affected by that.
So all these things that are outed, like I said, there was Sorlet, there's Eddie, there's Mudlet, all these things that are position changing, and people are getting aggravated because their defense or offense is getting massacred.
Now instead of splashing Spectrus, you splash Havacub to get around that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now
my thing, the way I look at it, the way I'm looking at it too, you guys have been talking about why Ash Rabbit was not included on that list, and I think it goes back to what Viper was just talking about as well. It is necessary for a healthy game state. We need a card like that. Now, if they were to ever want to remove that card, we would have to have a new card that took its place and was just as consistent as the Rabbit is. The Nexus forms of the Rabbit are okay, and in some ways, some people think that they're better than the original Rabbit. I think there's only the one right now, but I don't know if there's any more coming. But I'm just assuming that there's going to be other rabbits, right? Because they breed rather quickly. From what I'm told.
We also have 3 like Exaltair, Exaltair, Exaltus.
Yeah,
right. But
Nexus,
so my point being is that it's a necessary part of the game, right? So they're not going to get rid of it, regardless of whether or not it's a mascot, regardless if it's affected by position change, regardless of if it gets nuked by a card that just says nuke Rabbit.
Ash Rabbit, is that the one you're referring to?
No, I'm talking about Ash Rabbit.
Oh, okay.
The search one or the look one, right?
Okay.
Because it's necessary to be there, and like Viper was saying, it's nothing to splash just a Thunder or 2 in your Spirit deck to include rabbits in your deck, right? So I agree with all of that. I think that's exactly the exact reason why it was not included on a limit list or even a ban list, because as much as people don't want to see it, it has to be there, right? None of the other cards that are on the limit list need to be in the game. They don't need to be there. They are not essential to a win condition because there are other cards that do similar things to what they do.
I also, the point that I also want to make with Fairgeist is it's completely annihilated by suppression.
Mm-hmm.
That it like, we have Artemis coming in, we have the Moonrise 3-cost Dragalis, we have like a bunch of suppression. Literally, Dense Fog has been out for like a hot minute.
Yeah, but
like,
Dense Fog doesn't work on Pharaoh
Dense
because
Fog
it's
doesn't
a
work on
lunar.
It doesn't work on Pharaoh, but my point is suppression is here. And you can, if you're worried about Pharaoh, Pharaoh, literally, you can, if it attempts to attack you because it can't be destroyed or shield bounced, you can Gorgon Shield. Now that's expensive as hell, but again, there are ways to play around Pharaoh.
Yeah.
I think the key way to play around Pharaoh is to let it do its thing on the turn it's going to do its thing on, because you know it's going to.
Right.
And then you should respond with your invoke removal that we don't have, and your other removal that is kind of bad after this limitless. Like Kinleo, fine. Kinleo made it out unscathed. He's golden. Boombat though, splashing Boombat always feels bad to me. I never want to do that. But if Pharaohgeist is running around, I kind of have to. But it's
Well, if
fine.
I'm running
because
Boombat, it's in a
also-
Thunder deck.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, I'd be playing full Tempest normally, but we're not there yet. I've been adopted by Apollo.
I know, we're getting there.
But like Boombat outs Pharaohgeist. Laurels, assuming they don't have a smaller body on the board to protect it, outs Pharaohgeist. Kinleo outs Pharaohgeist. We have all these answers to Pharaohgeist, but they're in decks that no one's playing right now. And with these except for Boombat, with these limits, those cards probably see more play. Even something like Celestlio, the card no one's touching right now, outs it. Chronodial, a card that we've already said today is going to see probably more play, outs it.
Gorgons and any 10 attack or above outs it.
Kerbis outs it.
Kerbis outs it just fine
And
too.
you
Yeah,
can
sure,
get
that's accurate.
Kerbis out just as easily as any of the other stuff. Eddie rocking a hard place. Boom, here's Kerbis.
And
Oh,
then
yeah, but
Kerbis
Eddie will cost you one. Rock and Hard Blaze costs you two more for Pharaohgeist. Then you got to send Kerbis, it's 2 more, and then you get a Disenchant, it's 2 more.
No. You also have to think Kerbis heals.
Yeah, I guess you would heal 3 from popping Pharaoh.
Exactly.
That will specifically undo the taxes on the Pharaohgeist, though.
Yeah, which is fine.
Which is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, no, that's
And
fine.
Kerbis is honestly, I feel like Kerbis is being slept on for some reason. Like, I feel like the introduction of Draking kind of took all the hype away from Kerbis. And nobody's kind of looking at Kerbis currently, and it kind of shocks me a bit because Kerbis is actually kind of crazy, man.
I think the lack of Kerbis play as of recently is because, sure, Water has all the utility that Thunder and Earth has, if not more. It just doesn't have that step of consistency. Because what are you gonna do? Foamy float into your bodies? Like, no,
literally,
you get
so the consistency tools that Water has currently is Foamy to float and Aetheros to draw. And Aetheros gets shut down a lot, and Foamy is the victim of Gorgon's battle step, the same way Galaxy is. But if you look at it that way, everything in the damn game can be answered with Gorgons. Anything in the game can be answered with.
I think the reason why Kerbis was being slept on is more so currently, before all this madness, was that Ascension strategies just weren't it. But more importantly, it's because Rock in a Hard Place is more niche than anticipated. Because especially with all this combos, like, I think it's gonna be better, especially because we're getting rid of all our invoke removal. If invoke removal's gone, that means counter runes are gonna be everywhere. So Rock and Hard Place is increased prevalency.
Yeah, and it can't be responded to with a counter rune, which is the golden part of it. So they either have to choose that back row or that Elestral that they've been sitting on. And a lot of times, especially in a back row heavy game, unless they've got 2 Gorgons face down, friggin' Viper.
Hi.
Unless they've got 2 Gorgons, they're gonna have to choose between that Gorgons or that rabbit that they've been sitting on. And a lot of times they're gonna go for the rabbit and they're gonna save that Gorgons.
Again, back to Pharaohgeist? Oh no, I Rock in a Hard Place, your Pharaohgeist and your back row. You get rid of your back row, I Kerbis, and then destroy your Pharaoh.
There you go.
Like, there you go. Completely annihilates the Pharaoh. I don't see, like, there are outs to Pharaoh, and they are very playable. I'm sorry. Just maybe it's a personal opinion, but it blows my mind that this 3 cost was added when Volt Tempest wasn't.
Yeah, true.
Hi,
sorry, Viper.
Sorry,
Viper.
I'm just going to bring this up right now because we were talking about it, is the fact that we're not completely removing invokes for invoke removal, but there's enough of it going away that everything that you guys are talking about is exactly what's happening, because one earthquake, one resting on your laurels, some other stuff is dropping to one.
RT3.
Yeah, one RT3. All of that invoke stuff is getting dropped to one, and so it makes it harder because there's no search for this stuff. So it makes it harder because you got to count on drawing it or diving for it or whatever, figuring it out how to get to it, right?
What happens most of the time now is that, like, if I see it in my opening hand, I'm keeping that opening hand no matter what.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But what really baffles me, okay, so we talked about a lot of these changes, right? Why Equilinks were changed, why Alochick is there, why Pharaohgeist is there, why Viscerus in the Divines and whatnot. But the one key one that both myself and Viper are adamant about and don't understand is Arcolith.
Yeah.
Because it's nowhere near game breaking. There's so many outs to it when it hits the board. Somebody's like looking at that going, oh crap, it's an Arcolith. He's going to get a bunch of spirits. Let me do something about that. And 9 times out of 10, he gets to only do his thing once, and then he's gone.
Yep.
If
So I
anything.
don't know why it was problematic.
And if we loop it back to the Starbit conversation, right? Because I've been on this for a minute. Okay, Starbit is just Arcolith with a better stat line.
It is
And
Arcolith
then
better stat line?
Not-
Supernova, right?
Wazoo.
Yeah.
Like,
Not
Arcolith
only
is
is it
Arcolith
Arcolith-
is a 6'4", and I believe Starbit is a 7'2", right?
7'2", I
the
think.
Supernova one, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe it's 7'2".
water
But you
ever-
also have the utility on Starbit that says you don't lose those spirits.
Mhm.
They go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't see how Arcolith could be a problem when its summoning condition has counterplay. Its battle condition has counterplay. When you compare it to something like Starbit, which sure you can Gorgon's Gaze it, but you can Gorgon's Gaze anything. It's immune to Tsunami, and even if you do out it, the spirits are still there to be a problem for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to state this. Starbit is just a better Cryoling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
actually see that, dude, because it literally states the same thing on the card, right? To where, like, if it reaches an attack threshold, you either have to destroy it or ascend it.
Plus, when you special ascend the Supernova, you can grab a Frost Spirit to be immune to Cryoblast, or you can grab a Lunar Spirit to be immune to Dense
That's
Fog.
true,
Or
because opposed to, like, other stuff, it's only a 1-spirit Elestral, which makes it so radical. Like,
The thing
But
that
like the only downside it has to Arcolith is that one cost, so shielding it's cheaper.
yeah.
the thing that I find crazy is, like I said, it's the same stat line. The only difference is I'm sacrificing 2 defense on Cryovern to be immune to destruction, or not immune to destruction, but my spirits go flying everywhere other on my board.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spirits might as well just not actually be there.
Oh no, you cryoblast me? Oh well, everything's on Poseidon.
Mhm.
Like
It's all over
or
there.
do other things, you know?
It's all on my other Elestral that's
Not
sitting
to
here.
mention
under
that, but like, think about it this way too, because Supernova
I don't want-
states that it can't be normal cast, right? That's one of the caveats to it. That means that you can actually rise from the depths that
Yep,
Starbit
that's
because
what
it's
I
a
was about
1-spirit Elestral, right?
Yep,
And
you
Yep.
can rush into the only
All those
downside is you
spirits
don't
back
get
onto
the
it.
bonus effect of moving the spirits.
That's true, but like, still,
Aphros back. You use the Aphros to put all the spirits back onto the Starbit, that was-
Supernova.
yeah.
and
So
it's never happened. It legit never happened.
yeah, there you go. So like, there's Starbit seems a lot more crazy than Arcolith, yet Arcolith is getting hit with this limit. So yeah, that's kind of odd.
I don't
Starbit,
I know
granted,
exactly why it
Starbit,
is.
Starbit isn't here yet though, so that I feel like that's a big thing.
I
Well,
but
that's the big
if
thing.
you
But
look at the
here's the
card-
thing: Arcolith is thunder, and there's a lot of thunder hate right now.
Yeah.
Everybody is hating on thunder. So whether or not Starbit was already in the environment, it's always going to be against thunder and
True.
earth first.
true.
True.
So because people are clamoring for them to get neutered, and they're getting neutered, but I don't think it's in any appreciable way. These affects my Imperial deck is really I got to change 2 more cards in my Imperial deck now. In a total, with with everything that's going on with this limit list, my deck barely changes.
The Zeus part might like slow down your Imperial strat a little bit.
Nah, I don't think it's gonna have that big of an effect.
I think if Thunder is getting hit as it is, with several meaningful hits, whether that be Elechick or RT3, and then Arcolith existing alongside Starbit, with both of those conditions happening, I don't see a world that Arcolith is a problem and Starbit isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
agreed.
that concerns me for the future. But again, there's a whole slew of stuff that gets introduced with Moonrise that, like, I feel like is gonna shake the game up, like, regardless.
Yeah.
God, wait, what? I just had a thought. What is it called? Here it is. It's in Moonrise. The Armadon creature.
Yeah.
We were talking about all those position changers before, and I was just like, Armadon like benefits massively, and so that thing's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I know
'cause every
that-
time it changes position, it
But-
burns you for 1.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I'd like to state, it is tied with Moose Station for the highest defense of 1 cost.
So you can just like play something like an Earth list with like Mudlet and just keep flipping your own card.
Exactly,
And then Tsunami your own card.
And you can run Ultimate Stars for it. You can run like everything under the sun. Like,
Every
You can
position
edit
change
it.
card.
yep.
Yeah.
So
And
that-
just sit there and just sit there and burn your opponent.
You sit there and tease your opponent with burn.
That's
Exactly.
crazy. And then you tell them, oh yeah, he's in defense now because I have a Tsunami to change him back to defense after I moved him to offense. Like, brother.
Yeah.
'Cause if you look at the most, the thing you hear most about why people don't like Rabbit is the 5 defense stat, right? Well, this has a 6 defense stat, and it's burning you every turn, so it's progressing the win condition of the deck they're playing, which is something that Rabbit technically does because it finds you your win condition, but Rabbit itself isn't doing anything unless it's poking you for 1 damage.
Right.
Exactly. So this is a Rabbit win condition in its own right. Now, I'm not saying you have to add eruption to it, but I can also like side in eruptions in this deck to finish you off. Like, I don't know. There's so much that can be done with this card. Thinking about the position changes now.
Yeah.
You can do like the Toxes.
Oh my gosh, that
Yeah,
the more I
a full,
think about it,
a full
crazy
suppression list with the Toxis seems crazy, dude.
Get the Toxes, get the Mudlet, the Eddy, the Armadon, obviously, Tsunami's Altars.
Does Eddie only affect opponents?
Nope, you can flip your own with
flip any. You can flip any Elestral with Eddie. It's the same as Altar. You can flip any Elestral.
Yep.
I'm developing an evil idea.
Look at what we've done. Look at what we've done, guys. Oh,
found
man.
it. I had to find that thing because I was like, isn't there something that does that? And I found it, and I'm so happy I brought it up in this conversation because this thing, it can be so evil. And then isn't there a water, I think, 2 cost in Moonrise that's coming that also does position stuff?
Oh, Joblin. Yeah, Joblin. Brother,
Yeah.
I love that. He's so ugly, but I love him so much, bro. I'm so excited for that.
I'm telling you. It's so good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of shakeup coming within Moonrise. So I hope that this list gets reevaluated closer to Moonrise release, or like kind of maybe after the first premiere Moonrise event, they'll look at it and be like, okay, so maybe some things need to switch up here and there, you know? Like, I don't know. I'm confident that this list is not going to be the same forever, and things are going to be brought off of it, besides the things that need to stay off of it, like Spark It and Drataya.
I would like to one more comment about the Armadon strat is that you can have that there's 2 different ways to play it, which is the Wind Earth, and there's also Sandstorm from Frostfall, which changes position. So Sandstorm is also added into this Wind Earth, or you can have the Water route with the new 2 cost and Eddy. So this has different play styles, which you can have a side deck to switch between the two.
That's true.
If,
Well,
if
honestly,
there's,
I think there's enough healing in certain elements like wind, thunder, water that
Yep.
you could play all of them probably and get away with it.
Yeah, that's true.
and then your
But-
side is insane for this deck because you can play around almost anything.
Yeah, you can just smoke screen into whatever kind of deck you really want to.
And if you tsunami everything, alter your stars, your Armadon, and then hit them with a sandstorm, your Armadon goes to defense, and your entire opponent's field gets sent to their hand.
That is true.
That's
Holy,
hindsight
dude.
also.
That's actually kind of a nutty idea. See, this is the kind of proactive thinking we need within the meta, guys. Like this is the kind of stuff that people need to think about, because like there's a lot of things that is ingrained within Elestrals that people just don't think about because they look at the
Right.
card, they read the card, and they're like, no, I don't like that card. That's not a good card.
I was checking and the thing that so I think Pharaoh cannot be sent back to hand, so Sandstorm would not work on it. Boo. But it's just my point still stands.
Right.
Sandstorm can still put it in defense.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
And then you can Veritaqua destroy it. Oh, well, look, another out.
Boom. Veritaqua, another card that I haven't seen in what seems like forever, man, and that's an answer to Rabbit.
Veritaqua is a fantastic side deck option.
Yeah, dude,
But
phenomenal.
it's a mix between main deck because it can definitely be rough to have, especially when you're playing against a more offensive deck like Fire. But Fire's not purple, so it is definitely worth considering.
Yeah, there's a lot of things worth considering, and I feel like that's another goal of this limit list. Now that we're kind of on this thread, I feel like this limit list is kind of telling those people that are just so like lamented into playing the same old thing because it works and it's strong and I win with it. I feel like this is kind of a like letter to them to be like, hey, we're removing that stuff, so now think outside of the box of stuff that you need to that can be played. Think a little bit outside the box here, because Elestrals is so flexible, dude. Like, this game can be played a plethora of different ways. The fact that you can have every freaking spirit type in your deck is crazy to me. Like, and it works. Like, there's certain things that maybe you don't need that makes it non-feasible, dude, but you can have like all 8 spirit types in your spirit deck and play those cards within your deck, and it's a deck and it works. You know what I mean? Like, this game is so out there with the way that it can be played, and I feel like there's just untapped potential that people need to kind of get into.
I would like to say it does brand you absurdly thin. I think I think 2 to 3 is optimal.
True.
I think you can do 8, and I'm not saying you can't, but to have all 8, that's just spreading yourself so
Yeah,
thin.
no, 100% agreed. By no means was I telling people to do that. I'm just stating that
all 8 spirits, guys. You heard Dave Shift himself.
Yeah, no. I'm just stating that the flexibility of Elestrals allows for that to be possible.
Certainly the most flexible trading card game that I've played in my entire career of trading card games. You know, because everything else was so rigidly adherent to being a clone of Magic when Magic was first coming out, right? And then after that, then they went into other directions and went complete opposite of, let's do all the wacky, weird stuff that we can do, but it's still going to be based upon the same formula model-esque thing as Magic. Some were unique, some were not so much, and some were just really out there and just they were no balance there. But when you finally, when everything started settling down and you have, your unique card games, because if you look at it, Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't function like anything else. Magic doesn't function like anything else anymore. Pokemon is its own thing. So those are the big 3, right? And those are the ones people aspire to be. And a lot more of these card games that have been coming out over the years have adopted new directions and interesting ways to play the game. But I don't think any of them have garnered the flexibility that Elestrals has.
Yeah, Dan has truly created something unique and something special, which is crazy with such a market that is like just flooded with all kinds of different games. I mean, you got to think about it, man. There's Flesh and Blood, there's Lorcana, now there's all the Bandai games like One Piece, Digimon, Dragon Ball, like all of those that have like that IP to back them, which I feel like goes towards their success. Elestrals, on the other hand, is gaining its success independently from the ground up, and that speaks volumes about Dan. Like I think his creative mind has come up with something ingenious, man, and again, it lends itself to why something like this limit list is coming up at this point in the game. But like we've all agreed, I think we can all agree that we feel like it's a bit preemptive, but at the same time we get it and we understand it, and I think we can just we just got to sit back and see where it goes from here and see the adjustments that get made as the game grows and develops, which it already has. We just set records this past weekend with a tournament that had over 100 people, guys. I mean, holy crap, that's crazy. That is crazy.
The other thing is that Dan has openly admitted that this is his first rodeo. He has never done anything like this before. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to make choices that we're not going to like, because those of us who have been, career players or career judges or whatever we have been. I mean, obviously, I've been playing and being involved in trading card games for quite a long time now, probably more years than I care to admit, and that the average player has under their belt. But I respect Dan for what he's trying to do here, so I don't go at him like that, because he is a new designer and everybody starts somewhere. Right? And he's openly admitted he made mistakes. He's like, he admitted he made mistakes with the base set. And he's moving towards rectifying that. We just need to give him the time.
Yeah.
And even though this is a shock that he introduced this limit list at this time, and even though, some of it is going to come off in February, some of it's going to stay on for a while, some of it may never come off. I mean, we don't know what the future holds. But I'll tell you what, in about a year and a half, we're going to look back on this and we're going to be like, what were we worried about?
Yeah.
We're going to laugh about it.
I can agree. I can totally see that. And I feel
Farragut,
like
I'm looking at the Daybreak Cries board, which is Earthquake on an Elestral, and it suppresses and then destroys the Elestral. So there's another out. My head's
Cat Mel out.
Apologize. Cut that.
Wait, now you want to know a hot take for a great out to Pharaohgeist?
I'm ready. Hit me, please. I want as many outs to Farraggeist as possible in this podcast.
what you got, Viper?
Night Venom.
Night Venom.
Yo, hey.
That's a hot take.
Actually, you're right, dude. Holy.
I mentioned Night Venom is repeatable thanks to what's the card's name? Pand Islands? The lunar panda guy?
Pandalets.
Pendulence.
Yeah.
Dude, repeatable, and it destroys 2 cards of any cards. Wow, back row.
Dude, holy. You know what really shakes up this game, and why I think truly Moonrise will shake up everything that we've experienced thus far, is the introduction of the lunar element. I feel like the lunar element, as opposed to the introduction of frost and solar, is just so much more diverse and has so much more like splashability, dare I say it, and so much more like crazy effects on it, that I feel like Lunar is truly going to come in and make a splash and shake up the way that the game is played. I feel like Lunar truly is the final key piece that has been missing from this game.
I mean,
the thing I wanted to say was that by and large, in my estimation, of all of the sets that have been released, I do believe Moonrise is the strongest of all of the sets because of that versatility.
Yeah. I can
Agreed.
totally see that.
I would also like to state we talked about Hurricane, we talked about Gloombat, all beautiful counter removals. Another reason counters were not hit at all in this limit list is because Bandaloon is also a thing coming out.
That's true. Bandaloon can steal your back row, huh?
Bro.
Yep.
I don't think Lunar has the healing to like make it worth it right now, but I'm just looking at it and
Guys, you brought up healing. We're getting a counter to healing in Moonrise 2 with spoiled fruit, dude.
Nah, you can't sell me on this card. This card's mid.
No. I'm like, look at it this way. If you're going up against the heal stall strategy, which is very, very prevalent, you just side in spoiled fruit and then they're toast, dude.
hey, watch it. I love healing, and I at first it's a card that will be a side deck option. You can't tell me that this is going to be in a top tier card. That being said, I can see it in the future having prevalence, but right now it's just I don't see it being worth it unless it's a side deck option. Now, I think
It might suffer the same fate that Pandora's has suffered, where it's just inevitably going to be a side deck card.
exactly. Now, I'm looking at this card and I think it'd be fun to add to my healing deck because I'm going to heal a ton and then laugh in your face while you can't heal. So I'm just going to live forever and let you die.
That's true, man. That's actually kind of true. You just play the anti-heal card in your heal deck.
It's like I'm evil. I'm gonna let you suffocate.
That, yeah, okay.
It's I can't win, but you can't lose deck. Or I can't lose, but you can't win deck, or whatever you want to call it.
That's
So,
actually funny.
Now, spoiled fruit is a complete counter to my playstyle. That being said, it is something that I will probably add to my side deck because I can laugh in your face as you can't do anything.
That's fair.
Now, that totally counters the camel, which in my opinion is the strongest healer we have. However, it is completely decimated by suppression, which again is the whole
Also,
aspect of
Yeah.
Moonrise.
Also, pretty much the whole aspect of what Lunar is suppression. We've kind of picked up on that since its introduction in Daybreak. So
That's why I assume that they made Calf a solar instead of a lunar. That way, dense fog and other things do affect
yeah,
it.
that's true.
That way, it wasn't an all-powerful healing deity.
Which it is if you're not playing that. But regardless, so yeah, any final thoughts you guys would like to add on this before we wrap up this video? This has been a long one. We're at over an hour now, and I don't think I'm gonna cut any of this because this is actually quite incredible. The fact that we've gone into so much depth on this limit list. So
my only thought is play fire.
Play fire. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think Fire Nexus and the fire strategy in general gains a lot of relevance off of this limit list.
I've been looking at fire, but as I said, I've been adopted by Apollo with a slightly better idea, I think.
Fair
That
enough.
being said, hashtag free laurels, please. Thank you.
I also agree with hashtag free laurels. My opinion is go enjoy water. It is a very fun set. I love healing above all else. And so that's why I play water so much. That being said, we have a certain solar firebird that may adopt me into the arms of Apollo in this upcoming set.
Yeah,
So-
Dragalis actually looks kind of insane, dude.
Dracoray heals 3.
That's right. Dracorid does heal 3. Holy,
Your
dude.
gap also
Dude.
outs.
Oh, I see where you're going with this, Babs. Ascend Calfmel from Dracoray from Calfmel, dude. Heal 6. What, dude? No.
Yeah, see, I am a lover of all things healing, and I will be immortal in the arms of Apollo.
Anyways, guys, thank you for hopping in on this video for me. Like I said, this is a long one. There was a lot to unpack here, a lot to discuss, but thank you guys for hopping in on this with me. Everybody, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. And we'll all catch you guys on the next one. Peace!